This is the Riz Pod with yours truly, Risen Howard the Great Poupon, and the incomparable John M. Laws. Now, let's get back to the show. Ooh, yeah, baby. We are back on the Risen Howard podcast, the Riz Pod, with yours truly, Risen Howard the Great Poupon, and my co-host, the incomparable John M. Laws. This week, we are reviewing the 1982 cult classic, or just classic?
Well, I'll say cult classic because it was
Cult
the first.
classic.
We were talking, yeah.
Cult classic movie, 48 Hours, man. Interesting movie because this is where America at large got its first chance to see, Eddie Murphy, other than Saturday Night Live,
Yep.
and stand up. And 48 Hours is a 1982 American action comedy film directed by Walter Hill. It is Joel Silver's first film as a film producer. The screenplay was written by Hill Rogers Spottiswoode, Larry Gross, Stephen E. DeSouza, and Jeb Stewart. The film stars Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy in his film debut and Golden Globe Award nominated role as a cop and convict, respectively, who team up to catch two cop killers, Albert Gans and Billy Bear, played respectively by James Remar and Sonny Landham. The title refers to the amount of time they have to solve the crime. It is often credited as being the first film in the buddy cop genre, which included subsequent films Beverly Hills Cop, Lethal Weapon, and Rush Hour. A sequel, another 48 Hours, was released on June 8th, 1990. So you had the first 48 Hours, 1982. Another 48 Hours came out in 1990. But what we're talking about today is the first one, 48 Hours, where, quick synopsis, Eddie Murphy is a convict. Nick Nolte is a cop who is backing up two of his friends who were just looking into a stolen credit card. His two friend cops end up getting shot by these guys who had broken out of jail.
Yeah.
And in order to catch these guys, he goes looking for people who can find them, and one of them is this character Eddie Murphy plays, Reggie Hammond, who is locked up, gets a 48-hour pass.
Yep.
It said the best way for me to help you is to be on the street, and all kind of misogyny and racism and brutality
right.
Of course, and humor ensues, after which it resurrects Nick Nolte's career at the time,
yeah,
and begins Eddie Murphy's illustrious film career. The first thing that I thought was funny about this movie is that he's going in to get, and I don't know if they did this on purpose or if it's just a random thing. But they go. Nick Nolte is going into the prison to talk to Reggie Hammond the first time, and he's sitting in the cell, and he's singing
Roxanne
by the Police. And the first thing that struck me, I was like, wow, here's a brother who is in jail because he didn't listen to the police, and he go to jail, and he listens to the police. Right. This always struck me as a funny thing. But the one thing I noticed right away is that I had gotten used to the made-for-TV version of this. I've seen it. You know how back in like 86, 87, 88, it was on Channel 18, Channel 24 all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so the first thing that struck me is like, oh, it's a lot more, blood and killing, and breasts.
That language.
And language. Yeah, the language is crazy, right?
Yeah.
In this movie than what I realized. You know what I mean? It's 82. I was 4 years old at the time. And like I said, I didn't really see it I didn't see it in the theaters, of course. I ended up, seeing it on TV. And also, watching it now, I realized that there was a plot to it. You know what I mean? When I was watching it as a kid, I just liked seeing Eddie Murphy and the funny stuff that he did. And of course, I love the scene in the bar with the when he's talking to all the hillbillies and stuff like that and cowboys. So that that was just, I was just looking for those kind of things. Yeah. But this movie does have a plot. It's about a cat. This gang of people, they did an armed robbery together.
Correct.
They all get locked up, with the exception of Billy Bear.
Correct.
And Billy Bear at the beginning of the movie helps the other partner, Gans, escape.
Yeah.
Right? So they escape off of a chain gang. They head to the city, L.A.
Yep.
And that's when they, run into Nick Nolte and his partners. And right away in that first scene in the hotel, they have a standoff in the hotel. His two friends get shot. Jack is the character Nick Nolte plays. And what you see is Gans has a hostage.
Yeah.
And he says to Nick Nolte, he says to Jack, throw the weapon over here, because his partner came down shooting at him,
right?
But he had run out of bullets, and he says, "Yo, throw the gun over here. We won't shoot your guy." What does Jack do?
Yeah, so he did the what we now know as a traditional cop behavior, where you say, "Well, I don't want to hurt anybody. I'm gonna give you my gun, even though it's not the best move. I'm gonna be chivalrous and give you the gun." And gives him the gun, and the next thing we see is partner gets shot down. Yeah,
and then he turns the gun on Jack, and then Jack runs and jumps over a counter, which means at the time a man that looks nothing like Nick Nolte runs and jumps over the counter and to escape being shot at. And so we also see another like 80s kind of cliche.
Yeah.
When we get back to the station with the black
police
chief that yells,
just angry for no reason.
Right, and we saw this in a few different Eddie Murphy films, right?
Yeah, you see that a lot in a lot of his movies, and even in the Rush Hour, it became the cop theme, the chief, with the exception of, I don't know if you ever saw the Mike Myers film, So I Married an Axe Murderer. He had his friend was working for the police department, and that chief was, because of that cliche, was trying to be so angry, but he just couldn't do it. So that was the gag with that one. But for a good portion of the 80s, the angry police chief was that was the role.
And the dude who plays the chief, man, my man screamed the entire movie every time he was on film. Like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
What is this? Shut up.
Called him a nigga and all that.
Right, yeah.
I called him a nigga. Like,
yes, I did. Right. And that same actor, he plays that role again in Last Action Hero, which was another like kind of parody,
right,
of films, and he screaming for no reason,
right.
And then also, what you got, Beverly Hills Cop.
Yep, same.
You had a chief that, you guys are out of control and you're a menace and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, you see that with Lethal Weapon.
Yes, you do.
Like you said, Rush Hour, blah blah blah. The list is endless.
Yeah.
And was it Die Hard?
Die Hard.
You had the same thing. You're a menace. You're out of control, man. You're a loose cannon.
Loose cannon.
And so so that's one thing. But it also is effective because we have to see that this cop
is under pressure.
And that he has an issue with authority.
Yeah.
That's what makes him more likable,
right.
At least to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who wants to see I don't want to see a cat, just write tickets all day. And that was a nice 2-hour flick.
Right.
Especially when he gave the nuns the jaywalking ticket.
Right.
That was because he had to do it by the book.
Right.
But you see that these cats are dudes who are, first of all, they're men apart. And they have a disdain for authority as well. So, and then that makes and in this particular movie explains how him and Reggie can eventually, get along.
Because it gave him a common denominator. Reggie, of course, being in jail, obviously has a problem with authority, and then Jack Cates being on the wrong side of the boss's anger shows they both don't like authority, and this is our starting point.
Yeah, and the first thing I saw, about this movie is that we have come a long way.
Oh yeah.
With the way that we portray women in movies.
Yeah.
There were no strong women in this movie
At all.
Yeah, there were, and like even his girlfriend, her only thing was that she nagged him the whole movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He didn't even like make it up to her or nothing like that.
And it kind of seemed like her grievances seemed real trivial. Like she would,
why don't you stay here?
Right. Yeah.
I need you around.
Right.
It's like, man, nah, I don't know how it is, but my wife be kicking me out the door. Like, damn, you again.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but like I said, you saw that like all of the women in this movie were just peripheral characters. It was, get out of my way, bitch.
They were no different than any other set piece.
Right.
Yeah.
It had a few throwaway lines.
Right.
It lied.
Yeah.
And it had little naggy attitudes and stuff like that. And of course, every woman in this movie ended up naked. Or being a prostitute,
right?
Or being
sex
a
object.
Loose woman, right? Even a nice little sister at the end.
Yeah, that was. I was a little. I was like, bro, like, yo, she was nice. She was articulate, and you like, yo,
out at the club,
trying to take you to this hotel. Like, dang, bro.
And I'll sleep with you in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Even though his cop is chasing and all that kind of stuff. But hey, let's take a break. And we'll get into like some more things we saw in the middle part of the movie, and I want to talk more about Gans the villain.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back with the Risenhour podcast. Questions, concerns, and comments can be sent to therizpod@yahoo.com. TheRizPod@yahoo.com.